It has been known by many names: the Gugong, the Great Within, the Great Interior. The name that clings, however, is the Forbidden City. Forbidden because it was forbidden. Only the emperors of China lived within the Great Within. Emperors, their empresses, their highest-ranking relatives, their ladies, and their eunuchs. For anyone else to set foot in here was unthinkable. It was isolated from the rest of Peking by walls and moats, large and small. Down the middle are 3 enormous palaces, strictly for ceremonial purposes. They are surrounded by many smaller palaces and gardens in which the emperor, the empress, her ladies, his ladies, resided. Each edifice reserved for imperial use had a yellow roof, the fabled Ming Yellow. Yellow roofs, vermilion walls, the colors of the Forbidden City, the colors of the past. Mao Zedong has said, "Our history is full of treasures. The China of today has developed from the China in history. We must not cut off our whole historical past." This is the entrance to the Gugong. Tiananmen Square. This is the center of Peking, the heart of the city, the soul of it. It is the largest public square in the world. When the occasion calls for it, 1 million people can gather here. Here is where Mao Zedong stands when he reviews the celebrations, like the anniversary of the founding of the People's Republic of China. On the west side of the square stands the Great Hall. It was built by shifts of volunteer workers, 14,000 of them every day. It is the scene of party meetings, receptions, concerts, and banquets for foreign dignitaries. Built in 10 months, the people's gift on the 10th birthday of the People's Republic. People from every province in China participated. Precisely 10 months from the day they started, the final portrait was put in place. An hour from now, by 6 o'clock in the morning, the city of 7 million will hum with life. The people will be on their way to offices, to shops, to schools, to factories, on 1,670,000 bicycles. There is not one privately owned automobile, in China. But we are early in Tiananmen Square. It is only 5 o'clock, daybreak. At 5, people gather in the square for the ritual of Tai Chi Chuan, to exercise the mind, or for ordinary calisthenics, to exercise the body, or to indulge in the ceremony of ancient swordplay. For Tiananmen is the seat of government, the great park, the center, the heart of the city. It is an outdoor gymnasium for the army, and it is the place where a family on a holiday will meet. This is the Liu family, residents of Peking. Like thousands of tourists who come to Tiananmen from all over China, they will start their holiday most auspiciously. They will have their picture taken with Chairman Mao. Liu Baoli is the father of the Liu family. He works 6 days a week, 8 hours a day, in a machine parts factory. He's a skilled lathe operator. His father is Liu Mengyu. He helps out on a farm commune in Tonggu, 70 miles southeast of Peking. The mother is called Qin Xiulan. She works in a plastics factory. She does her shopping either before she goes to work or on her way home. The oldest son is Zhe Juin. He's a sophomore at Tsinghua University, a chemistry student. His sister, Mai Rong, is 20. She, like her mother, works in a factory. Her younger sister, Hui Min, is 17. She too is a chemistry student, but at harvest time, she works on a farm. Zhejiang is 15. He goes to middle school, our high school. He wants to join the army. Zheguang is 13. He goes to primary school. His red scarf shows he's a member of the Young Pioneers. The 2 younger boys and the oldest sister live with their parents. All 5 live in a 2-room apartment in Peking. For the 2 rooms, they pay a rent of $1.50 a month. Sunday is the one day when the entire family gets together. So what they do this day must be very special. Having met in Tiananmen Square, they now cross one of the 5 marble bridges at the very north end of the square. They've invited us to spend these precious hours with them in the Gugung. 20 years ago, the new masters of Peking rebuilt Tiananmen Square just next door to the Gugung. 500 years ago, the Gugung was carefully placed in the very center of Peking, so that today, the center of the city is half the past, half the future. The past, the Forbidden City, is now public property. On an ordinary day, 10,000 visitors come to this public museum. On a holiday, 30,000. They come from all over, from so many distant parts of China that 100 dialects can be heard inside the Gugung. Originally, great bronze lions would frighten the evil spirits and the common people away. These same lions can be seen on the old scrolls in the old Gugung, when only the princes and mandarins were allowed to parade on these stones. In the times of the emperors, the formality within the Forbidden City was rigid beyond belief. Every piece of apparel was prescribed for every occasion. Every step was a discipline. These are the ghosts of those previous tenants, long evicted from the Forbidden City. These are the imperial rulers of China. One of the mightiest of whom was Yung Le, the 3rd Ming emperor, the Black Dragon, the man who built the Forbidden City. When he was a young prince, his tutor was a Buddhist monk who gave him his lessons and, according to one legend, talked to him continually about a dream he had had. When he became emperor, he marched north to Khanbalik, the old Tartar city, the old stronghold of Kublai Khan, now reduced to ruin. He rebuilt it. He changed its name to Peking, which means northern capital. And in the very center of it, the heart of it, he made his old tutor's dream come true. The monk had dreamed of a marvelous imperial city. He had dreamed every detail of it, every stone, every building. It would be like the North Star, fixed in the center of the universe, while the rest of the world floated around it like the lesser constellations. The dream was realized in stone and cement, wood and tile, in vermilion and yellow, precisely as the old teacher had dreamed it. This was the Peking Yongle built in the opening years of the 15th century, a city of 400,000 people. The Forbidden City still sits in the center of Peking today, a city of 7 million people. Yongle's city consists of 3 great palaces and 3 great gates, and about 75 lesser palaces, in which there are 9,000 rooms. The wood came from Yunnan and Sichuan, whose wood can last 1,000 years. Every building faced the south, whence all the winds of beneficence and goodness blow. The emperor could keep his back to the north, from which comes nothing but storms and enemies. That was 500 years ago. Since then, these 250 acres have suffered the ravages of war, fire, spasmodic destruction by invaders, and the implacable destruction of the weather. In its long history, it has been destroyed and rebuilt again and again. Today, a corps of men and women has been trained to paint with the old paints, to repair in the style of the old carpenters with the use of ancient books. It takes 10 years to restore the entire city. By that time, it will need new repairs, so the restorers will start all over again. The intention is a program of perpetual restoration, so that future generations can always see the past. The first of the 3 great palaces we visit is called Tai Ho Dien, the Hall of Supreme Harmony. This one is the center of the universe, used only for the holiest of holy occasions. On the great terrace of Tai Ho Dien, the tortoise was both the symbol of longevity and the symbol of strength and virtue and honesty. In the time of the Ming, he could not be touched by any but noble hands. Half 1,000 years ago, his mere presence here would guarantee that nobody in the palace would be corrupt. Only the emperor could officially cheat. When they brought his portion of grain from the harvest, this measuring device was gently balanced in his favor. The great incense burners were made from bronzes and captured weapons from the 18 provinces of China. The sundial was ancient in China when it was new in Europe. The Chinese invented porcelain 700 years before Marco Polo brought the first specimens back to Italy. For 300 years after that, until Europe stumbled on the secret of its manufacture, porcelain in Europe was more precious than gold. When the Sultan of Egypt pondered long and hard on the most splendid gift he could send to Lorenzo de' Medici, he finally settled on 20 pieces of porcelain from China. Even before the Ming, the Chinese were exporting these objects to the whole Eastern world. In 1431, under the Ming, they sent 62 ships containing 28,000 men on a 15,000-mile voyage to Africa. That was 60 years before Columbus, with less than 100 men, went looking for China. The Chinese were using the compass when Christ was crossing the Sea of Galilee. They were inventing paper when the tree that would make the crucifix was a sapling in Jerusalem. The emperor was the Son of Heaven. Only the emperor could talk to the heavens. He would do so on one day of the year, when he went to the temple and the altar of heaven. It is 2 miles south of the Forbidden City. It is still considered the great moment in Ming architecture, one of the wonders of the world. In here, the Son of Heaven would call down upon his own head all the sins of all humanity, would bow that head to the ceiling of heaven this one time of the year and ask forgiveness. Forgiven, he would then pray for a good harvest. Then he would return to the Forbidden City. The great marble frieze of dragons is in the central staircase that leads back to Tai Hadian. The emperor in his chair would have to be carried over it, for only holy spirits who had been invited to festivities in Tai Hadian could walk upon the so-called spirit staircase. The Hall of Supreme Harmony, the scene of ceremonies elaborate beyond belief. Here the emperors were crowned to music made on great bells of gold. The dragon is the symbol of the emperor. Dragons crawl over the dragon throne, climb up and down the columns, swim on the ceiling in waves of gold. Next to heaven lived the Ming emperor. Bound to earth was the Chinese peasant. The distance between the court and the common people was the distance between heaven and earth. As the Ming affection for extravagance grew greater and greater, so did the indifference to the people who paid the taxes, which supported that extravagance. For 5,000 years, the tradition of the Chinese peasant was suffering and starvation, but he did not always suffer in silence. The history of Ming rule is riddled with a long record of peasant uprisings, and in the year 1644, one of them led to the collapse of the whole Ming dynasty. Li Zicheng was a peasant from Shaanxi province who started with a robber band of starving farmers and ended with a military force that conquered the city of Peking. He made a glorious entrance into the Forbidden City and proclaimed himself emperor. After 227 years of rule, the descendants of the great Yongle could not hold Peking against a peasant army. Nor could they hold against another enemy from the north. The Manchus poured down into China, chased the peasant upstart out of the Forbidden City, and pursued him to his death. Li Zicheng had been emperor just long enough to order an emperor's seal. He was not emperor long enough to use it. The last Ming emperor climbed to the top of Prospect Hill, which is the northern boundary of the Forbidden City. His empress took poison. He hanged himself. 17 Ming emperors had reigned in China. 13 of them lie buried in the valley of Shisanling, 25 miles north of the Forbidden City. The road to the Ming tombs is called the Sacred Way. In life, the emperors had been the overlords of all creatures, both real and mythical. In death, stone counterparts would be their subjects. The burial place of each emperor is marked by a soul tower. The tomb itself is in the mountain behind the tower. In the 3 centuries since the suicide of the last Ming emperor, only one of these tombs has been excavated. and that only 17 years ago. It is the tomb of Emperor Wan Li. 60 feet down was the entrance to the tomb itself. There are 3 marble thrones in the vault. One for the emperor, 2 for his empresses. The sign of the emperor is the dragon. The sign of the empress is the phoenix, the symbol of fertility. Only the thrones and a vase or 2 remain in this vault today, though immense supplies of treasure were found in here. Treasure which is now in the Forbidden City. Treasure like the blue crown. The blue is not stone or pigment. It is the feather of the kingfisher bird. The last Ming emperor was buried. The Chinese crown would now be worn by foreigners. The Chinese called them barbarians. We call them the Manchus.